Yes, what's up? Welcome in to Hold My Banner. We officially have 35 days left until the NBA season tips off for the Boston Celtics and their defense of Banner 18. Just don't tell Joe Mazzulla they're defending anything. Or their attack and aggression towards Banner 19. I'm George Blecci. This is Hold My Banner. I'm filling in for Travis Thomas. Everything you need on the Celtics right here on your podcast. If you're listening, please like, subscribe, download, rate, and review. If you're watching on Nesson's YouTube page, please hit the subscribe button. If you're watching on Twitch, do the same as well. Make sure to follow us on all social medias. We got a packed show for you guys today. I'm going to go through Wyc and Irv Grousbeck, the latest development in the disparity of communication between the father and the son, and basically the team and the bank for funding that payroll. We'll also talk some top 30, top 10 really, NBA coaches. Go through a Pelicans preview, and with Dwyane Wade getting his statue, we talk about what that moment means for him and, more importantly, what that statue should be. Let's bring in my main man right off the top. Walking, talking, triple-double by way of L.A., Ante Campbell. How we doing, my man?
I'm doing good, and as always, George, I got WNBA on the brain because tonight, as this episode is coming out, the Sun will face the Lynx, and it's an important game because this is a team that they could end up matching up with in the playoffs. Not only that, they have lost the last two games in the last 2 weeks against the Aces, and it makes me a little bit nervous because that's the only really contender that they face, and the Aces are good. And I bring them up for the reason of this. A'ja Wilson, 1,000 points. You talked about it the last time we were on this show. She finally got it. She achieved it. Congratulations to her. And we also talked about Caitlin Clark having the opportunity to break the single-season assist record, and she did that as well. So records are breaking in the WNBA, 2 games away from the playoffs. I'm all in, and I'm excited, George.
Yeah, I love looking at that 1,000. Like, hey, Asia's only 44 points away. I'm like 2-3 games at max. Like, It was setting the single-season scoring record for A'ja Wilson. It was just going ahead and getting to 1,000 points. After being snubbed for league MVP, she's like, I'm going to go out and do something that's never been done before. I'm going to carry this Aces team on my back, average more than 27 points per game. That was sick to see from A'ja Wilson. And then for Caitlin Clark to set that record, all the scoring she gets attention for. Like, assists have always been part of her game and such a significant part. Her days in Iowa, she's the all-time women's college basketball assist leader for career assists with 1,144. All-time scoring leader with 1,234. And then her first season in the WNBA, she breaks a single-season assist record. More than a three-point shooter, more than a scorer, IQ off the charts. And we saw her finally speed up with the game. She seemed to like slow down and think a lot when she first got to the W. After that Olympic break, she picked it up. And shout out to her Fever team too. You don't get this assist record without them hitting shots. League best 45.2% field goal percentage from the floor. Indiana Fever, WNBA leading shot makers. That's how they get to the playoffs, man. It's all around Caitlin Clark. But it was awesome to see what her and A'ja Wilson has achieved. First 1,000-point scorer in league history in a single season. Yeah. That is insane that A'ja did that, dude.
It is, and I really got to say this. I'd be remiss to bring up Caitlin Clark breaking this assist record without saying that she passed up our very own Connecticut son, Alyssa Thomas's record. So shout out to Alyssa Thomas. She's still great. I don't want her to be forever washed away in history because Caitlin's probably going to break this record again and again and again in her career. But Alyssa Thomas, thanks for setting the pace.
Bro, it's awesome to see that with this next era of hoopers coming in. And A'ja, I mean, she's been a vet. She's been in the league, obviously, won her championships, won her MVPs. But to see a rookie come in like Caitlin Clark and put her fingerprints, put her impression all over the league already is insane. All right, Tay, we'll send you out for a second. I'll bring you back after this. Everyone knows what this offseason means for the Celtics. It's not just for them to repeat as NBA champions, which I like them to do because I say time and time again, their road to that 18th banner, their path through the 2023-2024 season, it was a cakewalk. I mean, no one could match your talent. No one can match your depth. No one can match your experience. No one can match anything they did on both ends of the floor. Cruise through the regular season, cruise through the postseason. The biggest question around this Celtics team, though, is who are going to be or who will be the future owners of the franchise. One of the most iconic franchises in all of sports. And we know what happened just days after the Celtics won an NBA title. It was Wyc Grousbeck putting the team up for sale. And then the details came out. It was Irv Grousbeck doing it, as he's a majority owner of the Celtics, and he's doing it for estate planning purposes. Next is what a new report came out from the New York Post. 2 quotes jumped out. One was, "This is what happens when dad puts in most of the money." Second quote, "Team is expected to lose roughly $80 million because of luxury tax fines for being over the salary cap." So I point those 2 out to say this. The reports came out, we found out Wyc Grousbeck, the face of the franchise, most public-facing owner out of all of the ownership group that purchased his team back in 2003 for $360 million, that's Wyc Grousbeck. He owns less than 3% of the Celtics. But the Grousbeck family, led by his dad Irv, owns majority of the team. And Irv Grousbeck himself, according to this report from the New York Post, says his controlling stake is roughly 20% of the Celtics. He's a majority owner. Wyc, 63 years old, less than 3%. Irv is 90 years old. Grew up in Massachusetts. Went to UMass Amherst. Graduated from Harvard Business Law. Started a cable vision company in the 60s and turned it into billions. This guy is one of the most savvy businessmen there is in all of ownership of sports. And tell me when you've heard of Irv Grousbeck before these reports came out of the team going up for sale. Likely nobody. He's teaching business school out in Stanford, where he's one of the leaders of that business school out in Palo Alto. Can you believe it that a guy that owns an NBA team, majority of that team will just quietly chill in his classroom, in his house, likely his mansion, out in California, instead of sitting courtside in TD Garden with the Jays doing their thing, with them winning an 18th banner, with this city that loves sports, ready to praise and just obviously worship whoever brings them a title, with all the Steve Ballmers, with the James Dolans, with the Mark Cubans. Irv Grousbeck is one of a kind, right? But these reports come out, and I pointed out again, Irv Grousbeck's 90 years old and controlling stake of roughly 20% of the Celtics, while his son Wyc, who's 63, owns less than 3% of the team. This second apron's coming down. It starts this season. The second apron kicks in on teams on their 2024-2025 payroll. Let's run through the numbers quick and stick with me, all right? I'll try and go slow. The Celtics have the 6th highest payroll this season. Their payroll is $203 million for their entire team. The second apron, the cutoff there is $190 million. So when I say first apron and second apron, it is what the first apron is basically a soft cap of what teams can spend up to. Once they exceed the first apron, every dollar they spend over hitting that first apron is taxed. Once they get over the second apron, which is $190 million, maybe a little less, 189.5. Let's go 190, clean round number. Once you go over that second apron of $190 million, every dollar after will get taxed. And depending how far over you are over that 190, the tax could be $1.50 per dollar. It could be up to $6.75 per dollar. So if the Celtics team payroll was $190 million and $1, they would have to pay an extra $1.50 to field that team. They're $13 million over that $190 million, according to SpotRack. They're paying a minimum, and I'm going with the minimum here when I run through these numbers. Minimum tax of $1.50 for every dollar over. Then, if they stay over the second apron, there's a repeater tax that comes with it. Basically, the NBA wants to end the big threes or the Steve Ballmers or the Wyc Grousbecks that are willing to pay whatever to field a team, or the Matt Ishbias of the Phoenix Suns that would pay and spend whatever to have a big three on the floor and pay all these superstars, and it ruins the parity of the team. Really, it's to defeat the Warriors doing their thing again for all those years. But all those rings they got, but all the taxes they paid. So let's get back to the Celtics. They have a $203 million payroll. The second apron at $190 million, that's $13 million over. If they're paying a repeater minimum tax of $1.50 for every dollar over, then the repeater tax of an additional $4.50 for every dollar over, with this $13 million difference, they would pay $19.5 million on tax alone. Then that repeater tax, $58.5 million. So their payroll could be $203 million, but the Grousbecks and the rest of that ownership group has to pay an additional $78 million just to put a team on the floor. Their total cost of operation right now, at minimum, just to put a team on the floor, not paying coaches, not paying support staff, not paying rent to the TD Garden, which their lease runs through the 2030s. They don't own their own building. Just to put a team on the floor, it's $280 million it'll run them in a season. That's with The second apron tax, and again, if they run it back at this number or it increases, that repeater tax comes in. Teams 15 to 20 million over could pay up to $675 for every dollar. So I'm even being a little soft with estimating that. If it was $675, that'd be $101.2 million in taxes alone. First things first, the Celtics don't want to be a repeater. But think about it like this. They just went through a playoff run. They just won a ring. They don't own their own building. They don't get revenue from those additional home games. They don't even get revenue from concerts that could be at TD Garden or Dave Chappelle coming to the Garden, Sebastian Maniscalco, Drake. Those are the guys I've seen. They don't even get revenue from that to help offset what they spend on the Celtics. All postseason bonuses, that kicks in on player contracts. That's more money out of the pockets of the Grousbecks and the Pagliucas and the rest of the ownership, on top of the taxes they have to pay. Getting back to that's what happens when dad puts in most of the money. Irv Grousbeck looked at the books, found out his numbers, realized what the second apron will be, and said, I'm getting out of this. From 2024 to 2025, just between the Jays alone, that will run them $84 million. 2025, 2026, between two players will be $107 million. Let's bring in Jrue Holiday and Derek White. $165 million for 4 players. You want to add Kristaps Porzingis? $195 million. That's over how the second apron is right now. The tax will go up because obviously the payroll, the cap will go up. Revenue will go up. But $195 million for 5 players. And this is with Jaylen Brown is with the Celtics until 2028 under contract. Jason Tatum under contract until 2030. Jrue Holiday 2028. Derek White until 2029. Kristaps will be a free agent in 2026. Wyc says in the article, to say the sale is in any way related to losses is completely incorrect. Wyc's just saving face there and saying it's not on me. This is what gets me and where I see Irv is coming from, to be pissed at his son for how much he ran up the bill. Irv Grousbeck purchased the Celtics in 2003 for $360 million. At the numbers I just laid out, that group will have to pay 78% of what they put down to purchase a team to put them on the floor for one season. One season. They're now valued at $6 billion, but Irv saw the books. He saw the tax numbers. He basically saw the credit card bill that his 63-year-old son ran up, and he said, we're done. The bank cut Wyc off. But now they have to find someone to buy this team that will pay $6 billion, not have their own building until 2037 because their lease runs with TD Garden until 2036. And if they make that purchase right now, they have to figure out how to offload a Jrue Holiday, a Derek White, a Kristaps Porzingis, and possibly one of the Jays. I know you don't want to hear that, but the Celtics got to this point. They were the most beloved ownership in Boston sports because they paid. But in reality, it wasn't them paying. It was Wyc running up the credit card bill. Now, their due date for their minimum payments coming through, and Irv is seeing $81 million is my minimum? What did it run up to? And he's saying, I'm out of here. And you bet, at 90 years old, self-made billionaire, he doesn't care about the NBA. He cares about assets and margins. And at 90, I wouldn't be surprised if taxes come into this. Hey, if I pass away and you get the team, it's going to be taxed 50% on what that sale is, right? Or if we do it right now and sell the estate, we could save 20%. A 20% difference on $6 billion? I didn't do the math there, but $6 billion is a lot of money. You saw what $6.75 was on $78 million, how that adds up that quick. Same thing. The Celtics and the next owner, they need their own building. They need that revenue, but they need to get under the second apron. For this New York Post article to come out, I'm not astonished. I'm not surprised. It makes sense. For Irv to go to Wyc, you had your fun. You won your ring. Enough. It's all about business with this family. I'm liquid. You're not. We got to set this thing up or we're just going to burn ourselves out. Again, in 1964, his dad founded a Cablevision company here in Massachusetts. He became a billionaire. In 2003, he purchased the Celtics for $360 million. Now he wants to sell them his shares that is valued at $6 billion. But he has to pay $280 million just to field the team this year. No duh that Irv is out. And Wyc is the one that drove him out. Let's bring in my boy Ante back in. That was a story when I hear it too. And I wonder I mean, Wyc doesn't care. If the bank keeps saying yes, if that credit card keeps going through, when you're out to eat, when you're shopping, when you're getting a Drew Holiday or a Kristaps Porzingis.
Yep.
Because also with the second apron, like the Celtics would not have been able to trade for a KP, or a Drew Holiday.
Drew Holiday, acquired Drew Holiday. Nope.
The Suns wouldn't have been able to get a Bradley Beal in Phoenix.
No.
I wonder what drove Wyc to this point, though. Was this something to prove to his dad? Was it not caring? That's what's interesting to me in this, but he's paying now, man.
Yeah, you talked about that $6 billion, 20%. Just so you know, that's $1.2 billion. It's a lot of money.
And I'm throwing percentages out there.
Right.
Like, I am not an expert on salary caps in the NBA. I'm definitely not a financial expert. But just imagine, dude, even if there's 10% of that, okay, let's just cut it in half on that number.
Yep.
Okay, that's $650 million, right?
Yep. Just
Like, that's what
600 million. Yeah.
600 mil.
Yep.
Yeah, right? See, so I'm not a math expert. It's easier when I have my calculator.
Yep, 600 million. I got you.
Okay, but the Grousbecks alone, like if there's a percentages on billions, they could save 600 million.
Yep.
If they sell now through an estate planning instead of passing it down. There's so much that goes into this.
Yep.
And basically was Irv was in California. Wyc was picking up the phone saying, yeah, it works. And one thing I thought, Ante, too, I wouldn't be surprised if, I mean, Irv does his thing. He knows business. Obviously, everything he's built up.
Yep.
He heard about the second apron coming down. I wouldn't be surprised if like a Steve Pagliuca picked up the phone and goes, Irv, this is what it is. This is the payroll. You keep approving Wyc to make these moves and pay these players. Now we're about to pay.
Right.
And I wouldn't be surprised if Pagliuca raised that red flag of the only way to cut off Wyc is to sell the shares.
Facts. Look, I only have to say two things about this, George. One, can I just hold $1 million? Can I just hold $1 million?
Bro.
And two, you know who else needs to hold $1 million? Look, I just got to tell you this. You know who else needs to hold $1 million? Last year, during Christmas, around that time, I met up with my mom in New Orleans, whatever, and we went to a New Orleans Pelicans Rockets game, which was funny because there was a fight at that game, and it was a great moment. All my friends and family members saw the fight from my angle and my view, and they were all laughing and joking. But that arena is horrible. And I bring it up because I'm going to switch over to this. We're obviously previewing NBA teams, and this time we're previewing the New Orleans Pelicans, who have one of the worst arenas in the NBA that I've ever been to in my entire life. They need some money.
Is that the Smoothie King Center?
Yes, it is. And they need some money.
Awful arena, awful name. Now I'll let you go.
Okay. They need some money, and they need some help, and hopefully they can get some wins this season. George, how do you feel about this team's offseason and their upcoming season?
This one's so interesting. I mean, like, it all starts and stops with, like, do you get another 70 games out of Zion? Do you get your best player and your superstar bought in, wanting to be in shape, wanting to show up from the team, eliminating distractions off the floor?
Yep.
Like Zion, no more Mariah Mills, bro. No more Mariah Mills. Keep it to the league.
Oh,
Keep it to the association. I had to name drop there.
Yep.
But then, so if you, let's say you get another 70 out of Zion games.
Yeah.
A guy that showed up, obviously big time for his team, what his shooting is around the rim, giving you 24 and 6 a night.
Yep.
Then they go out and trade for DeJounte Murray, which were the picks they got for their Drew Holiday and Anthony Davis trades. Mm-hmm. Bring in a DeJounte Murray, 6'5" point guard, good shooter, can get you 20 and 8 a night. Round it out with an Herb Jones, an Alvarado. Herb Jones, a phenomenal defender.
Yep.
Trey Murphy, 6'8", 200, gives you 15 and 5 a night too. Mm-hmm. We don't know what's going to happen with Brandon Ingram yet.
No.
And it's either you have B.I. on this roster, which is great scorer, only 27 years old, just been in the league forever.
Yep.
Or if you trade B.I., we can see what the return is. That carves out minutes for Trey Murphy to really put his impact on this team.
Yeah.
And with the roster, you look at like a Jordan Hawkins, who was playing 17 minutes a night. A guy I remember seeing Hall at UConn 2 years ago, went in blind really, was one of my first college basketball games. It was out in stores. Mm-hmm. 5 minutes in, I see number 24. Elevate baseline, hit a jumper. Come back down. A few minutes later. Elevate three, hit a jumper. Next trip down. Drive baseline, poster slam. And I go, who is this NBA guy?
Yep.
He has an NBA ready shot, speed, athleticism, release, everything. Those guys getting more minutes can help out this team a lot. Mm-hmm. There is what's the CJ McCollum in all this, but he's under contract 2 more years. I think they're just going to deal with it. The timelines don't match up, but obviously that's a vet with experience you would want.
Yep.
Is this a play-in team again? You could confidently say yes. Is it a playoff team? That's where I don't know, Tay.
Yeah.
Because with BI, you want to say yes, but also what would that be, like a trade deadline, selling at that point, but obviously you have the guys to back them up to give more.
Yep.
Willie Green's a great coach, always improve their win total, but they just can't. They need to get over that hump. If they get Zion again, I like them as a playoff team, like avoiding the play-in and getting into the playoffs.
Yeah, I could see that. When I look at this team and I look at their offseason, obviously DeJounte Murray will be a huge help for them because they've had this issue where they don't know who their point guard is because CJ's not really a point guard. He's one of those kind of tweener guys. He can facilitate. Don't get me wrong. He can pass the ball, but that's not really what he wants to do. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying DeJounte is really a facilitating type of guard. He's definitely more of a defensive guard. That's where he gets his money, and he's, transition offense and that kind of stuff. And he can score a little bit. I know people give him, some slack because he scored 44 points on 44 shots with the Hawks last year. But he can score the ball, you know what I mean, when he gets it going. And he doesn't always have to be a high volume guy. He knows how to play within the offense, which he learned in San Antonio in his time there. Yeah. My thing is what's going to happen with BI? That's a huge question. Also, for me, I always feel like size is important in the NBA, and it is. Even though Porzingis isn't really a back-to-the-basket big and all this other stuff, like the minutes that he played when he played at 7-3 were important. Him being the shot blocker for that team was important. Al being able to rebound and defend in the paint was important for the Celtics team. And you can run through a list of championship teams, and they always have a guy who can really protect the rim at a high level. I don't see that from this team just yet. They got Daniel Tice in the offseason. He's okay. He's okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So they need to figure that out before they figure out the BI situation, because even if BI plays or he doesn't play, like when I look at their lineup right now, it looks like they're probably going to start out the year, if BI does play for this team, in small ball. They're going to have DeJounte at the 1, CJ at the 2, Herb Jones at the 3, Brandon Ingram at the 4, and then Zion at 6'6" at the 5, which, for all the credit that I can give, Zion is one of 4 players in NBA history to average 20 points per game and, I think he have over 60% field goal percentage or something like that. You got to go check that one. But the list is Shaquille O'Neal, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and Nikola Jokic. So that's a pretty good list to be on. You know what I'm saying? So if we're going to have a 6'6" guy down there banging, I would love him to be one of the – compared to 3 of the best bigs in NBA history.
What's the difference between those 3 and him? 7 foot and plus.
Right. That's it. Yeah. I mean, Jokic is 6'10", 6'11".
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But, exactly. So that's where I'm really nervous about this team. Okay, BI dips. He's a great asset. Don't get me wrong.
They could trade him for a center, but who's out there, you think?
Yeah, that's the question. Who would you really want that's young and can fit, that a team can get rid of? You know what I mean? It's questionable. I mean, Miles Turner comes to mind off the top of my head because he's always the guy that's available. But
how many more seasons do we get of someone has to trade for Miles Turner
right,
and he doesn't get traded?
I mean, I would also look to the Cavs. You know what I mean? You could talk about an Evan Mobley who probably needs to play the 5 in the league. You know what I mean? You could talk about Jared Allen. Obviously,
would they go? But he wouldn't be a guy that can play 70 games. But Rob Williams would be more of a depth piece. You have to get
Time Lord.
If you're trading Brandon Ingram, you have to get a Mobley or a Miles Turner. You can't settle on a Rob Williams.
Yeah, you can't get a Time Lord in this situation because you can't have a guy with Zion who's barely played over 60 games. Only twice in his career so far. And then obviously getting BI out, who's a guy who's also had injury issues over his career, and bringing in another guy like Time Lord, who what did he miss? He missed the whole entire season last year.
Yeah, he has some regenerative knee condition.
So this team needs consistency, which is why I like the DeJounte pick, because he does play and he does play. You know what you're going to get from him every night. So having another guy who can play the 5, who's going to be consistent there with Zion, because we know that he might not be there every single night, and we hope that he is. And that actually brings me up to a question that I had about him. Like, do you think he can play over 65 games this season?
I mean, we got 70 from him last season, and that's going 24 games, 61 games, 29 games, 70.
Yeah.
What's the shape you're going to get him in? He's so unpredictable. I can't confidently say yes. I have to sit back. I'm going to say no. I have to doubt it. After putting that workload on his body, and a guy that just doesn't show up in shape, and it still is a story to this day. He's entering his 5th season in the NBA. How committed is he to being an NBA player? I would say no. I don't think they get another 70 out of him, and until I'm proven otherwise. And like, let's say he plays 70 games this season, I'll go, okay, did it back to back. I still would doubt it. Do it 3 in a row, then I'll go fine. All right, he's a 65, 70 game guy a season.
Right.
But we've seen it. We know the questions. But when he's on the floor, 57% or better field goal percentage from the floor, 32 minutes a game, 24-6, just everything you need, and can dominate the paint. I want him 70 games. I don't think so, Tay. What about for you? You think he plays 70?
I mean, we got it last year, right? You know what I mean? And there's always the pictures. I'm tired of seeing the pictures over the summer. Zion slimmed down. He looks good. Oh, my God. Da-da-da-da-da. And then he comes out, and 3 months later, everybody's calling him fat on the internet. You know what I'm saying? So I'm going to say yes, just to combat what you said, just to play devil's advocate.
We have a podcast to put out here.
Just to play devil's advocate. I'm going to say yes. I think that he's like more locked in. I think he's done with the BBLs and all that other stuff. Hopefully he's done with the beignets and the
beignets and
the po' boys out there in New Orleans. So, that's what I'm hoping, that he's really locked in, because this team has a chance to be a playoff team. And I was going to ask you this as well. If they are a playoff team, do you think we get Zion's first playoff game? Because now they've been to the playoffs twice in his career, and he's been out every single time, every game that they've played. Do you think he gets his first playoff appearance this season?
First playoff appearance. We're talking playoffs, not play-in. I said they're a playoff team.
Yeah.
I said they're a playoff team.
You said they are, yes, which is fair. But does he play in that game?
As much as I doubt, I said I don't see 70 games.
Yes.
But to your point, too, and this is where I go, he could get 70. If he figured out and unlocked whatever it takes to be there for 70 games, if that's a Zion we get, then yes. I'll say that confidently. I just need to see him prove it to me again that he'll do that. Build in that routine, build in those good habits, build in that focus, and that just being a professional to show up for your teammates. I don't care what they're paying you. I don't care about the franchise. Show up for your teammates 70 or more times this regular season. He does that, I could confidently say we'll see him in the playoffs.
I agree. I think we do get Zion's first playoff game this season. I want to ask you 2 things quickly. You got to answer them quick, all right?
Let's go.
Is he an all-star? And what bets do you like from this team?
I like that he's an all-star. I say yes.
Okay.
And for bets, I'm gonna say makes the playoffs, because but this is a team with Willie Green as a coach, a lot of upside.
Yep.
I would see what the number is. I'm gonna stay away from win total. I'm gonna stay away from things like that.
Yep.
But give me makes the playoffs.
Yep. I like that. I like that as well. I say he's definitely a playoff. He's definitely gonna be an all-star. Excuse me. And they definitely, I would sprinkle money on them being in the playoffs in whatever fashion that is. Just a little sprinkle. And so you obviously talked about their coach, Willie Green, and CBS put out a list of their top 30 NBA coaches in the league from top to bottom. Last is JJ Redick.
Of your Lakers, the head coach of your Lakers, Ante.
Stop calling them my Lakers. I don't root for that team,
I'm Ante Campbell, and I'm a reformed Lakers fan.
I don't root for that team. And then obviously first, a rival to the Celtics, Coach Spo is the number 1 coach rated by CBS. George, do you have a problem with any of these rankings from this list?
So quick 1 through 10: Spo, Nurse, Carlisle, Kerr, Lou, Dagnall with the Thunder. I don't know if I said that right. Will Hardy, Ime Udoka, Budenholzer, Tom Thibodeau.
Yep.
I respect Spo at 1. I mean, the guy that, for the talent that the Heat have, when you have a superstar that didn't ever show up for your team, you still get them back to the playoffs. Yeah, they were run off the floor by the Celtics, but everyone else was. I don't mind Spo there. Nick Nurse, great coach, obviously won a ring. Carlisle with the Pacers, what I like with Spo, what I like with Nurse, what I like with Ty Lue, what I love with Ime Udoka, it's both ends of the floors for their team. With Rick Carlisle, that's still to be determined. Now, they play that fast pace, but also with if he continues to develop Tyrese Halliburton to actually be a number one and to take that step compared to the bad mental mistakes we saw him make on the floor in the playoffs, especially against the Celtics, that would say a lot about Carlisle. I like this top 10. I do have my own. I know we'll get to that.
Yeah.
JJ at 30, I can't hate. I mean, like, he's never done more than coach his kid's youth team.
And I'm not rocking with putting Brian Keefe of the Wizards over him, bro. I can't rock with that. And, like, Charles Lee, like, I understand he was a part of this team. I'm not disrespecting the Celtics and what he did this season. But, like, bro, we haven't seen anything of him as a head coach either. So, like, he's going to be coaching the Hornets.
Will Hardy with the Jazz is the one that surprised me, too.
Yeah.
Again, like, what did the Jazz do? And that was a guy that was like, he should have been the guy over Joe Mazzulla. The Jazz have a talented roster, but they still like under 40 wins. Like, what is happening there? Dude, you have them 7.
I'm so glad you brought that up because that's the first thing that caught my eye. Like, okay, Utah Jazz, right, and the Rockets, and we've talked about the Jazz, we've talked about the Rockets now on our NBA preview. Yeah. Both teams are basically really similar identity. They have a guy who's really, really good, but it's not like a superstar with Lauri Markkanen and Alperen Sengun, right? But neither of these teams have, like, other, like, great players around it. They have a lot of really good players.
Especially the Rockets.
Right, but not a lot of great players. So how does Will Hardy's Jazz, who have been terrible and nobody even thought that they had a chance at the playoffs, get him as a coach get ranked higher than Ime, who's shown us with the Celtics what he can do.
Boom.
Shown us with the Rockets team that was in hell. You know what I'm saying?
He got there,
that he's now brought life back to, and now that me and you think could be a playoff team this year, possibly. You know what I'm saying? Become 8. I don't even see Will as a top 15, let alone 7 coach in the NBA today.
To this point, how is Will Hardy ahead of Chris Finch?
How is Will Hardy
ahead of Greg Popovich?
How is Will Hardy? Let's talk about this. How is Will Hardy ahead of our coach, Joe Mazzulla?
That's what jumped out to me, too. Like, I don't get this Will Hardy top 7. And if this was a CBS, I didn't hit the link. But you know what? That makes it for a more fun discussion. Was this them talking with NBA execs and they go, that Will Hardy. But still, we're talking about the proof of, like, what you do on the floor. Yeah. Ime Udoka, what I like him is what he did with Jalen Green. Like, the development, that's what I'm knocking Rick Carlisle for.
Yeah.
With Chris Finch, what he did with the Timberwolves. Yeah, he has Ant-Man, but also found a way to make Karl Anthony Towns actually effective and Rudy Gobert.
Yep.
And then with Joe Mazzulla. I'm one of the most critical guys of Joe Mazzulla. What it takes to be a successful NBA coach is getting these guys locked in, is keeping them motivated, keeping them focused, having them showing up and buying into their roles. Mm-hmm. He had Jason Tatum go from one of the top scorers in the league to become a playmaker. And then he elevated Jaylen Brown on both ends of the floor. And I'll give credit to Jaylen Brown's hard work there. And he kept them so focused after running through the NBA for 82 games to absolutely bulldoze over everyone in the playoffs and the finals.
Yep.
Like, they never faltered. Never once were they shook in the playoffs. Yeah, Joe Mazzulla at 11. Also, again, like, part of what makes an NBA coach great is understanding your guys. Tibbs is at 10? He ran that whole team into the ground.
Man.
He almost killed Jalen Brunson.
Dude, I'm right there with you. I can't believe that Tibbs is the 10th best coach, but I feel like a lot of this is just like people recency bias, you know what I mean? Blaming it on, like, you saw the Pacers make a deep playoff run, so I don't know. I have Carlisle a little higher than what they have him.
Okay.
But, like, I still, even that was kind of hard. Let's run through our top 5 real quick. All right.
Wait, I want to do one real quick. Budenholzer at 9.
Yep.
We all remember that if KD was a half size smaller feet, it would have been the Nets advancing and doesn't even go into overtime. Before, like, 2 games into that Bucks-Nets series, serious talk was you don't let Mike Budenholzer touch down on the tarmac in Milwaukee. You fire him mid-playoffs. He won a ring. Giannis won a ring.
Yes.
Let's see what Bud does with these Suns.
No, I'm 100% with you.
Budenholzer at 9 again.
Budenholzer shouldn't be that high. I agree. Like, you win a championship and then you get fired. Like, that's not a sign of a good coach. Clearly, he's not a bad coach. I'm not saying that he is. But top 9 in the NBA, I'm with you. All right, let's run through our 5 really quickly because I do have a game that I want to get to you really. That's going to be fun. So my 5 is Spo at 1.
Me too.
I have Carlisle at 2, actually, because I don't think Nick Nurse should be that high just yet. I have Mark Daigneault out of OKC at 3 because I love what he did with that unit and a lot of misfit guys that I don't think would fit well in other systems. He made work all together. Ty Lue at 4, I understand that he's always had talent, but he's always been a great player coach. He's always gotten the most out of his guys. No issues there with the egos. And then 5, I go with Nick Nurse at that spot.
Wow, so we have a very I went 1 Spo.
Yep.
I went Pop 2.
Yep.
Ime 3.
Okay.
MD Mark Daigneault 4.
Yeah.
Nick Nurse 5. And then I had Ty Lue at 7, right behind Chris Finch.
Okay.
And then I went top 10, but then I went because I had to. I just had to. I can't stop at 5.
Yeah.
I went Finch, Ty Lue, and then I went Missoula 8, and I kind of stopped there.
So I think I have like Ime 6 for me, and
right
then
outside looking in.
Yeah, and then I have Finch, and then I have Missoula 2 at 8.
I like that you bring up Mark Daigneault, and I like him at 3. I had him at 4.
Yep.
I just have so much respect for Ime and what he did. Like, that's also a guy that calls out his superstars. I'll bring it up a lot in this tape. I just remember watching the Celtics in the playoffs when they were on their way to the first finals appearance. Finals appearance of 2021-2022 season.
Yep.
And he called a timeout just to look at the Jays and go, what the F are you guys doing? But said my favorite 4-letter word. I just love that in a coach. I can't get over that.
Yeah.
Mark Daigneault, that's one of the most efficient offenses you will see in the NBA. And again, buying into the roles, SGA's the guy. Jalen Williams, you're the second best. Chet, you're number 3.
Yep.
Everyone else falls into their roles, but they go 8 deep. They have so much talent. So MD at 4 to be top 5 is no brainer in my opinion.
Yeah, I like that a lot. All right, let's play our game. This one is Stop Me When. So stop me when you hear a better player than Dwyane Wade.
And I'm talking D Wade in his prime.
D Wade in his prime.
Cool.
All right. So I got my list here of 10 guys. You know how it goes. Let's run through it. I'm sure you're going to be silent for most of them because, in my opinion, this is the 3rd best shooting guard in NBA history. All right. Klay Thompson. Okay. Anthony Edwards.
Not yet.
All right. Devin Booker.
No.
Okay. James Harden.
No, get Jimmy out of here.
I knew you were going to say that. That's why I put him earlier than I probably should have because I knew you hate James Harden. Okay. Allen Iverson.
Ooh.
Yeah. I know.
Such a skilled scorer, but keep going.
Okay. Russell Westbrook. All right. Kevin Wayne Durant.
So, hold on.
Oh, okay.
D Wade's like a top 3 shooting guard.
Yeah.
I'm going D Wade in his peak. So we're talking 06 to really like 2013 Dwyane Wade, but that was a lot of help with LeBron. KD in his peak is like a top 10 scorer. I'm going to say stop on KD.
Wow.
And what Dwyane Wade does on both ends of the floor as a slasher too. I mean, at his peak, how good of a scorer he was.
Yeah.
And he's clutch too, bro.
Here's my thing though. At his peak, he had a top tier Russell Westbrook.
Yeah.
He had a budding James Harden at somewhere in that peak.
And then a Steph and a Clay.
You know what I'm saying? And it took a Steph and a Clay and a team that won 73 games in the NBA season that he joined the next year to win for him to win an NBA championship. Dwyane Wade went out there with Shaq. And
old Shaq of just get me to the playoffs, then I'll show up Shaq.
Yes. And
Mario
you know what
Chalmers.
I mean? And you know, Twan, you know what I mean? So we shout out our boy Twan, you know what I mean? And really put a city on his back.
I know.
You know what I mean? By himself.
I'm thinking peak D Wade too. Give me the rest of this list.
Okay, and then it's easy from here. Steph Curry.
Yeah, stop.
Yeah, it's Kobe Bryant.
Yeah, stop.
And Michael Jordan.
Yeah, stop.
You know,
I was right there. I went 1 early, so.
Yeah.
It is. And what Dwyane Wade did on both ends of the floor and how good of a slasher he was. That was a good one.
I don't hate the KD take. It's a tough. I feel like it's like, you know, pick your poison. It could go either way.
And I would like to know the length of KD's prime if not for that Achilles. And not for that calf strain to that Achilles tear.
I feel like he's still kind of in it, though.
Exactly. And he's not at his 100%. He's still in his prime, but he's a shell of what it could be.
Yeah.
Because he hasn't had his legs for a few seasons.
Facts. All right, man. Now it's time to talk about D-Wade. Obviously, I brought him up because he's getting his own statue.
Let's go.
Miami Heat are finally honoring him by putting the statue in front of their arena for D-Wade. And with that, George, they're going to be playing, I think, October 27th. I think it is, against the Pistons. No, excuse me. I'm picking the wrong date. No, it's October 28th, October 27th. I have to zoom in right there and look at my eyes.
Get your eyes checked.
Get my eyes checked against the Pistons. So it's going to be a win for the Miami Heat. And with that, I wanted to know, what do you think, what moment should the statue embody of D-Wade?
So I went with 3 moments. Did you kind of list yours out? Did you have options?
No, I have one. Because I know my favorite D-Wade moment.
All right, I'm gonna go 3, but my last one is what it should be.
Okay.
First that came to mind when he hit that double overtime winner against the Bulls. Mm-hmm. And you could go with 2 different ones. His high release on his shot, and he kind of let it go fading away.
Yep.
It could be D-Wade pulling up mid-range, especially putting his shoulder down as he did all the time, lowering shoulder, then step back, fade away. But it's more of him going, this is my house, in the L Heat jersey.
Yeah.
Then I think of his poster on Kendrick Perkins, but I think that should be on display when you walk in past his statue of that spins around Serge Ibaka, double hand slam in KP's face.
Yep.
This statue should be him grabbing the rebound in the 06 finals from the Jason Terry missed 3 and about to chuck the ball up and celebrate. I think that's what the statue should be.
I would like that. I actually kind of like that moment from you, but I think this one's a no-brainer for me personally. Like you said, let's go back to March 9th, 2009, George, against the Chicago Bulls. Ben Gordon, who put up 43 points. D-Wade to cap off a 48-point night. Gets the steal from John Salmons. Runs down the court. Off one leg.
Right.
From 3. Straight cash in double overtime. And gets on the stanchion. And this is the moment that they have to have up there. He says, "This is my house."
He just did it like this.
"This is my house." That in front of the stadium with the quote, "This is my house," and his arms pointing down like this is the statue. If you could put a little nod to him being the Flash, maybe putting a little lightning bolt on his shoes or something like that, that would be a nice extra touch because that is his nickname. Maybe even put a little Band-Aid over under his eye, even though he wasn't still wearing it at that point. And the reason I also think that's the moment for them in that city is because that was the night they wore the L Heat jerseys.
Right, I love
and
that.
We know that they have a huge Latinx community out there in Miami. So not only would it honor D-Wade, it would honor that community as well. If you put the L Heat on the front, it would just be the perfect way to commemorate his career.
I like that nod. I love that. That was our moment for both of us.
Yeah.
And you go through so many. Like, there could be multiple statues of Dwyane Wade. I'd be fine with that at multiple parts of the arena because he's the best player in that franchise history.
Yep.
And they owe so much to him. And that's still a guy. I remember one time I was in Miami, and in front of me at a stoplight, it was a Benzo coupe convertible.
Yep.
Top wasn't down. It was hard top. I just saw MVP 06 on the license plate, and I was like, Dwyane Wade.
Right.
That's such a good dude. I like that moment too. That's why I said too, either that step back fadeaway that he hit, again, that high release, like basically above his head he lets go, and that's what I picture, or again, bringing them that ring, chucking that ball up into the crowd.
Real quick, because we only got 2 minutes left, George. Perk says Kawhi is the best NBA player to not win MVP. Do you agree? Do you think it's D-Wade? Do you think it's somebody else? How are you feeling?
You could go D-Wade, especially in his peak. You could go Chris Paul. I think Jerry West, and Jerry West got caught in the era of the Kareems, of the Willis Reeds. Who else? He finished second 4 times. Willis Reed, and Kareem twice.
Yeah.
So I go Jerry West on
I'm going to roll with D-Wade. He had to live in the Kobe era. He had to live in the LeBron era, in the Tim Duncan era, whatever you want to
Dirk Nowitzki in that 06-07 season.
Right. Steve Nash era,
right?
You know what I'm saying? Like, these were a lot of great guys who were just having these ballistic seasons. And he played in Miami, with a lot of old guys in his career. So he never really got that chance to shine when he did. But he won Finals MVP. He won an NBA championship. So that's the hardware that matters.
How wild is it that the logo never won an MVP. Won a finals MVP when they lost, 10-time All-Pro. And that's also the first and last time I'll ever give credit to someone that played with plumbers and carpenters over someone that played in the modern game.
The logo.
Real quick, last one too, Tay. My first ever solid pair of shoes.
Yes.
I didn't grow up with much. I wasn't going to drop anything on Jordans.
Yeah.
But were those Converse D Wades in 06.
Yeah.
Bro, I pulled up to school wearing those. You feel like $1 million. And you know, when you get new pair of shoes for the first day of school, everyone's like, nice shoes, nice shoes.
Yep.
Man, I loved those shoes. I wish I got like 3 more pairs.
Yeah.
You know, ordered ahead of like the size growing up just to have them now. Those are one of my favorite shoes I ever had.
And one of my friends had the Jordans that had the circle in the middle where you could, and it was like a clear plastic and you could see your sock, and it was like Jordan's like D Wade shoe or whatever at the time. Those were dope as well.
Those were, but you got to have clean socks.
But they were dope.
You got to have clean socks if you're rocking those.
Facts.
Hey, he's on Tay Campbell. I'm George Bilecki. This was Hold My Banner. Tay, as always, this was a fun one, my man.
Yes, sir.
As you guys noticed, we will have a different schedule for football season. We'll be dropping new Hold My Banners Monday. Tuesday. Yep, got me. That's my guy. We'll be dropping new Hold My Banners every Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday for the future moving forward. Thanks as always for tuning in. Like, subscribe, rate, review, follow Tay and myself on all socials. We'll see you guys next time.
Hooty hoo!